There are a lot of recipes out there for making soil block medium. Some of them are peat-free, and they're using coconut coir. Some use the native garden soil and compost. Others use a standard potting mix you could find at any big box store. The principles are generally the same. You need an ingredient that holds water, an ingredient that creates space for air, and an ingredient that fertilizes the plant. And then obviously your water that helps mix the whole thing together and helps the block stick together. So you can use any of those different types of recipes out there. I encourage you to just find a recipe that works best for you and use the ingredients that are either local to you or that you prefer, whether you want to do peat-free or some other ingredient. So when it comes to justifying the cost of a soil blocker, I know it can be a lot to invest in a tool that you're using only seasonally, but one of the great things about the quality of this product is that you will pass them down generationally. It is likely that basically your kids and your grandkids will use these. I brought this one as an example. I've had this one for almost 15 years now, and this is one of the first ones I got. I'm still using it regularly, and the design really hasn't changed a whole lot in that time because it just works so well. So in terms of having an efficient garden, homestead, or small-scale farm, quality tools make a huge difference. They're going to help you save space, they're going to help you save time, and they're going to last a long time and justify their initial cost. So now we're going to seed some larger seeds. These are nasturtium. And so what we're going to do is just drop one in each hole. And then we'll go back and cover them because these benefit from really being well saturated. So we'll use some vermiculite. And I just grab a handful and then just top each block. And I don't need to go back and water. There's enough water in the block itself to not only saturate the seed, but also even the vermiculite that I'm putting on top. So the question gets asked, can you make the soil blocks ahead of time leading up to the season? And there's two reasons why you might not want to do that. One is that if you make the blocks ahead of time and they dry out entirely, they're really hard to actually get saturated again without falling apart. The second reason is that if you try and keep the blocks moist before you seed for, let's say, a few weeks, you're actually either watering and flushing some of those nutrients out, or bacteria and fungus are using those nutrients for themselves, and then when you put your seeds in there, there's not enough nutrients left for the plant. A lot of people ask, do we need to screen the soil mix? That only depends if you're going to use the bigger blocks or the smaller blocks. If you're using a potting soil, and you do notice some aggregates or some larger pieces in it, you can screen that for the smaller blocks. Otherwise, you can just use the unscreened for the larger blocks and it should be fine. So it's important that you're applying enough pressure whenever you're filling the block, that the moisture is at the right level to help the block stick together, and that you're applying pressure and then pulling gently up on the base of the soil block maker. The next thing that people tend to run into is the blocks drying out. This is a really common issue that I hear, and one of the best ways to water is to bottom water, especially until the plants get established. We're doing that using a bottom watering tray that we can fill with water. Simply twist the tray inside, let the blocks become saturated, and then lift it back out, another little twist so they're not sitting in the water. So I'm a big fan of the bootstrap mesh bottom trays and bottom tray because they are a lot stronger than any other trays that are out there. And what's great about using these two trays together is that I can make my soil blocks on the mesh bottom and use the solid bottom to bottom water. This is really important because a lot of the things we're starting from seed, especially things like cut flowers, don't like being top watered. And you really want this plant to actually get rooted before you switch over to top watering. Vermiculite is made out of mica that has been expanded in a superheated oven, and it pops like popcorn. It helps hold a lot of water and also kind of increases drainage and porosity. I make sure to include the variety, what the crop is, but also the date that I'm seeding. That way I know how long it's been and if maybe that seed might be bad if they're taking too long to germinate. And with the soil blocks, if you did multiple varieties in here, what I typically do is I just slide the tag in between a row of soil blocks.